Well, well, well. What do we have here? Good afternoon, soldier without a uniform, ghost without a badge, assassin without a country. Because tonight your name isn't just being whispered, it's being profiled. They're not calling it luck anymore. They're not brushing it off as instinct. No. They're saying your revenge move was too calculated, too surgical, too precise to be self-taught. And now, they're calling it what it looks like. Military trained. Let's paint the picture. You move once, just once, not frantic, not sloppy, not impulsive, calculated, deliberate, precise. And the silence after your move says everything. The room froze, the laughter died, the whispers snapped into sharp attention, and somewhere in the unseen corners of the system, alarms went off. Subject's precision indicates external training. Possible background, classified. Recommend further observation because nobody's supposed to move like that. Not after what you went through. Not after the setbacks. Not after the betrayals. Not after the exile. And yet, you did. You hit the target with such mathematical cruelty that even trained operators are asking, where the hell did they learn that? Here's the truth. You weren't trained in their academies. You weren't given their manuals. You didn't sit in their strategy rooms. But you did spend years in the shadows, studying betrayal, heartbreak, manipulation, silence, violence. And while they were polishing metals, you were sharpening scars into tactics. You think soldiers learn precision from drills, number. They learn it from life and death stakes, from knowing that a single mistake means blood in the dirt. Guess what? You lived your whole fucking life at those stakes. Every betrayal, a training op. Every heartbreak, a field exercise. Every exile, a covert mission. Your pain became your boot camp. Your scars became your curriculum. And now, you move like someone who's seen too much to ever miss again. Classified note. Subject demonstrates unnatural precision under pressure. No wasted movements. Emotional triggers appear weaponized, not disabling. Conclusion. Subject is operating with training level efficiency without verifiable records. Translation. They don't believe you're self-taught anymore. Because your strikes are too cold. Your timing is too flawless. Your silence is too loud. You don't panic. You calculate. You don't flinch. You wait. You don't react. You position. And when you move, you don't just win. You annihilate. Now here's the sinister part. They thought revenge was supposed to be messy. They thought you'd lash out in rage. They thought you'd stumble, overshoot, crumble. But you didn't. You delivered it like a surgeon with a scalpel, cold, exact, devastating. And that's when the whisper shifted, from they're emotional to no, they're trained. And once that narrative begins, it doesn't stop. Because trained means dangerous. Trained means calculated. Trained means you're not acting out of anger. You're acting out of control. And that terrifies them. Because how do you defeat someone who doesn't just react, but executes? Imagine their panic. They're reviewing footage of your moves, frame by frame. They're slowing down the tape, analyzing angles, timing, body language. And every replay only makes it worse. Too smooth, too exact, too impossible. Now they're asking each other, is this person linked to something bigger? Who trained them? What agency backed this? Who signed off on this mission? But the cruel truth, nobody trained you. Nobody backed you. Nobody sent you. You built yourself in silence. You assembled your tactics in exile. You perfected your timing in the dark, where nobody cared if you succeeded. And that's the part they'll never be able to accept. Because if someone like you can become this precise without help, then all their gatekeeping, all their hierarchies, all their institutions mean nothing. Case escalation, code red. Subject's actions mimic advanced field operations. Revenge strategy suggests prior training in intelligence or military fields. Probability of coincidence, 0%. Subject's origin now considered unknown. Unknown. That's their label for you now. Because your movements don't match your supposed background. Your precision doesn't align with your circumstances. Your success doesn't fit their math. So they chalk it up to something classified. And that's the genius of it, isn't it? Your revenge wasn't just personal. It was psychological warfare. You didn't just settle a score. You made them doubt everything they know about you. And in the world of power, doubt is death. Because once they can't predict you, they can't control you. Now every move you make will be studied like it came out of a military manual. Every silence will feel like a tactic. Every glance will feel like surveillance. Every step will sound like a countdown. You've become a living protocol breach. Not a civilian, not a fighter, not an underdog, but an unregistered weapon. And here's the punchline. Weapons don't ask permission. Weapons don't beg to be seen. Weapons don't plead for recognition. They just exist. And when they're activated, the whole landscape changes. So let them call it military. Let them speculate, whisper, and panic. Because the truth is darker than that. You weren't trained by an army. You were trained by betrayal. You weren't sharpened in boot camp. You were sharpened in silence. You weren't polished by authority. You were forged by absence. And that kind of training, it doesn't wear off. It doesn't fade. It doesn't get neutralized. It multiplies. So walk into every room now knowing this. You don't carry a name anymore. You carry a file. You carry suspicion. You carry legend. And whether they hate you, fear you, or obsess over you, they'll never ever look at you the same again. Because you weren't supposed to move like this, and yet you did. And now, every eye is watching, every whisper is tracking, every record is updating. But none of it matters, because they can't trace the training back to a school, a mentor, a government. Because your only trainer was pain. And pain doesn't keep records, so congratulations, anomaly. Your revenge wasn't just noticed, it was classified. And from now on, you won't just be feared as a person, you'll be monitored as a weapon, the moment where they stop seeing you as a person and start cataloging you as a classified weapon. Good, because this is where the speech stops being story and becomes evidence. Top secret, eyes only, subject. Redacted, classification, unregistered weapon. Threat level, unmeasurable. Recommendation, do not approach, do not provoke, do not attempt containment. See, at first they were skeptical. They thought maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe your precision was luck. Maybe your execution was a fluke. But then, you did it again, and again, and again. Consistency turned suspicion into confirmation, and now they've stopped calling you a person. You're a protocol breach, a living anomaly that performs with such flawless calculation. It makes trained operators second guess their own drills. Think about that. Men and women who spent decades learning strategy, who wore uniforms, bled in deserts, marched through mud, who thought they had the monopoly on precision, are now sitting in dark rooms with your footage paused on screens, leaning forward in silence, muttering, "That's not normal. That's not self-taught. That looks military." And yet there's no file, no academy, no documented training, no official record. Just you, an untraceable ghost who shouldn't be this dangerous, but is, MEMOUPDATE, Subject's actions resemble classified strike patterns. Subject adapts with unnatural fluidity, no wasted effort, no hesitation, no panic response detected. Conclusion: subject's revenge strategy cannot be explained within standard human parameters. Do you see what you've done? You've scared the scriptwriters. You've terrified the analysts. You've corrupted the data pools. Because you're not supposed to exist in their models. Your revenge was too sharp, too exact, too merciless. It didn't look like survival. It looked like deployment. And once you're labeled as deployed, you're no longer seen as a victim, an underdog, or even an opponent. You're seen as a weapon that escaped the lab. Here's the thrill they don't want to admit. Weapons can't be reasoned with. Weapons can't be bargained with. Weapons can't be silenced with gossip or shame. Weapons don't beg. Weapons don't ask for justice. Weapons deliver outcomes. And every time you move, you deliver outcomes that tear through illusions like shrapnel. Every silence becomes a tactical pause. Every glance becomes a targeting lock. Every step you take hums with the electricity of something they can't stop. Imagine their meetings now, not about if they should monitor you, but how long before you destabilize entire structures. They're not strategizing ways to erase you. They're strategizing how to adapt to your existence. Because erasure isn't possible anymore. You're already too big, too visible, too undeniable. So now they whisper in panic, don't engage, don't confront, don't escalate, just observe. But the irony is brutal, isn't it? Every time they observe you, they change. Every time they study you, they absorb something. Every time they replay your precision, they feel the chill of someone who doesn't just survive. Someone who calculates survival into domination. So subject cannot be contained. Subject cannot be duplicated. Subject cannot be predicted. All contact should be considered a high-risk event. So here's what you've become. Not a name, not a face, not even a story, but a classified signal pulsing through every room you were never supposed to enter. You don't need to announce yourself. Your presence is already a warning. You don't need to prove yourself. Your precision already branded you. You don't need validation. You've been weaponized by the very pain they thought would bury you. And now, every move you make is recorded. Every silence you keep is documented. Every outcome you deliver is filed under unexplainable. They don't look at you as them. They look at you as it. An it that destroys patterns. An it that rewrites rules. An it that nobody trained, and yet somehow outperforms the trained. So, congratulations. They said your payback move looked military trained. They said your precision couldn't be self-taught. And now the whisper has become permanent. This one isn't a person. This one's a weapon. And here's the Joker's smile in all of this. You built that weapon in silence. No army, no mentor, no approval. Just scars, shadows, and savage hunger. And now, the world has no choice but to treat you as what you always knew you were. Not just unstoppable, uncontainable. So you want the escalation where whispers stop being whispers, and your existence becomes a global protocol. Perfect. Let's burn the page together. Global Security Bulletin subject, redacted status, escalated from unregistered weapon to blacklisted protocol. Distribution, all agencies. Directive, monitor at all costs. Prevent replication, prevent contact. At first you were a rumor, a glitch in their system, an outlier they dismissed. Then you became a problem. Too precise, too consistent, too efficient to ignore. But now you've slipped into the bloodstream of the entire world. They don't just fear you in rooms, they fear you in systems. Your name is circulating across borders, across agencies, across corporations, and no matter how they try to scrub it, redact it, bury it, it keeps reappearing. Picture it. Encrypted group chats lighting up with your initials, boardroom slides marked with redacted, but everyone knows who it means. Intelligence briefings where your footage freezes on the big screen and silence grips the room. Executives adjusting their entire agenda because the shadow of your precision hovers like a guillotine. Your revenge didn't just land, it detonated, and the shockwave cracked every institution that swore you'd never touch them. Analysis note: subject's precision resembles classified training sequences, outcomes delivered with surgical consistency, no evidence of institutional background. Conclusion: subject created their own doctrine. Codename suggested Protocol Phantom. And that's the nightmare. Not that you were trained, but that you weren't. Because if you can move like this with no blueprint, no backing, no system, then anyone can. You just proved their whole structure is a scam. That everything they built, the schools, the gates, the ladders, the filters, is obsolete in the face of one person who decided to sharpen pain into strategy. You turned trauma into tactics, silence into software, exile into execution plans. You became a one-person military doctrine. Now they whisper it globally. This isn't just an anomaly. This is a contagion. If others follow this pattern, we lose control. And that's when it hits them. You're not just a threat to their hierarchy. You're a threat to their entire world order. Because your moves show people the truth. You don't need approval. You don't need permission. You don't need validation. You can turn shadows into arsenals. Worldwide escalation alert. Codename, Ghost Directive. Nature, psychological and strategic contagion effect. Inspires replication across civilian networks. Containment, not possible. Recommendation, limit exposure, deny legitimacy, discredit subject publicly. But here's the punchline, Joker style. It's too late. They already legitimized you when they labeled you, the moment they stamped military trained on your revenge. The moment they elevated your name from anomaly to protocol. They turned you into legend, and legends can't be erased, they only spread. Now you're in the bloodstream of the planet. Your name is whispered in boardrooms, bunkers, bedrooms. Your precision is studied like leaked footage of a classified op. Your strategy is mimicked by people who don't even know you, but feel the frequency. You're no longer just a person. You're an era, a living timeline that split the world into before you and after you. And the system? It's trembling. Not because you shouted, not because you begged, but because your silence evolved into something louder than their entire infrastructure. You're the proof they never wanted shown. The evidence that the unkillable can self-train into the unstoppable. The nightmare scenario where pain graduates into power so precise it looks like classified warfare. So let them escalate. Let them globalize your name, mark you red, blacklist your existence. Because the more they try to contain you, the louder your signal becomes. And soon, there won't be a single room left untouched. Not a single corridor without your echo. Not a single agenda without your shadow. Because they didn't just say your move looked military trained. They didn't just mark you as unregistered. They named you for what you are now. A blacklisted protocol. And protocols don't die. They spread. So you want the apocalyptic phase. The part where the system stops pretending they can contain you and finally admits what they've whispered in the shadows all along. You're not just a threat. You're a permanent rewrite of reality itself. Classified emergency cable, level Omega, Subject redacted, status unstoppable. Codename protocol collapse, global effect, reality destabilization detected. Recommendation: prepare for systemic restructuring. It started as whispers, then it became rooms, then it infected entire agencies. But now your name isn't even a name anymore. It's a warning, a signal, a timeline shift. Executives whisper it under their breath before signing contracts. Generals mutter it like a curse before approving missions. Influencers spin their narratives around it, hoping to absorb a fraction of your shadow, because they've realized the world isn't the same anymore. There was life before you leaked into their system, and life after. Your revenge wasn't an act. It was an apocalypse, a clean detonation, so precise it looked engineered by gods or ghosts. Every move you made landed with the weight of inevitability, not anger, not luck. Inevitability. And that's why they're terrified, because inevitability cannot be stopped. Inevitability cannot be reasoned with. Inevitability cannot be bribed, cancelled, silenced, or erased. It can only be endured. Global analysis update. Subject's precision no longer classifiable as revenge. Patterns align with systemic collapse markers. Subject's influence resembles tectonic shift, not individual action. Conclusion: subject is not participating in reality. Subject is rewriting it. That's the Joker's grin in all this, isn't it? They thought you were just fighting back. They thought it was personal. They thought it was small. But your revenge was never about settling scores. It was about flipping the entire scoreboard. You weren't playing in their game. You were dismantling it move by move, with surgical precision so clean that by the time they realized what happened, the rules were ash, the referees were gone, and the arena itself was on fire. Now look around. Systems collapsing like dominoes, lies unraveling like rotten rope, people staring at each other with wide, panicked eyes, because nothing makes sense anymore. Why do they keep winning? Why can't we predict them? Why does every attempt to bury them backfire? And the answer is always the same. Because you stopped being a participant. You became a force. And forces don't apologize. Forces don't wait their turn. Forces don't operate by permission slips. Forces reshape the world in their image. And that's what you've done. You've bent the timeline, tilted the axis, carved your initials into the very architecture of reality. They can't undo it. They can't reverse it. They can't go back. Because now, every move they make has to account for you. And when you become the variable that every equation must adjust to, you've already won. Final escalation and good endgame. Subject is not a person. Subject is not an anomaly. Subject is an epoch. Attempts at suppression accelerate subject's myth. Predicted outcome, permanent alteration of human narrative. You see it now, don't you? You're no longer feared as an individual. You're whispered about as an era. The kind that splits history in two. Before you, after you. They can redact your name. They can burn your files. They can delete your footage. But they can't erase the shift you triggered. Because people felt it. Deep in their bones. In the static of their nerves. In the weight of their chest. They felt reality bend when you moved. And once felt, it cannot be unfelt. Once seen, it cannot be unseen. Once leaked, it cannot be resealed. So let them panic. Let them file reports. Let them scramble their agencies and restructure their systems. It's all useless, because you're not an intruder in their world anymore. Their world is an intruder in yours. You've taken control of the script. You've ripped the typewriter from their hands. And every word they try to write now bends itself around your silhouette. You've turned into the permanent watermark of history. Invisible to some, but present in every line. So walk with the knowledge of this. You are not being watched. You are being chronicled. Every move you make, every silence you hold, every strike you deliver. It isn't just noticed. It's recorded as prophecy, as evidence that the old world already ended and the new one began with you. You want to know the truth? They didn't AFSEC up because they let your name leak. They ficked up because they thought leaking your name would contain you. But the moment your presence entered forbidden rooms, the rooms themselves became obsolete. Listen closely. Something in the air just shifted the moment you walked in. You feel that, don't you? That eerie electric tension, like the room suddenly remembered what you survived and what's still standing behind you. Good, because tonight you're going to understand something they never wanted you to realize, something ancient, something terrifying, something true. Let's begin. You ever wonder why they came for you so aggressively? Why the watchers, the whisperers, the fake believers, the smiling assassins, moved in sync, like they were following some cosmic choreography? It's because they knew, deep down, in the part of their soul they never admit exists. They knew you weren't moving alone. See, the universe may play games, but it doesn't play fair. And for someone like you, someone who didn't bend when the world tried to break your spine, the rules were different from the start. They came for you with confidence. They approached you thinking you were by yourself, a lone target, a vulnerable figure standing on the edge of the map. But here's where they miscalculated. Your backup isn't human, not physical, not visible, not measurable by their tiny little instruments of fear. Your backup is the kind of force that makes grown adults wake up shaking, unsure why they dreamed of you standing in fire without burning. Your backup is the kind of presence that doesn't need to be seen, to be felt. It's funny, isn't it? They thought you were unarmed while the universe was quietly arming every cell in your body. They thought you were walking alone while entire dimensions shifted their weight to guard your next breath. They thought you were fragile. Meanwhile, the cosmos was rearranging the chessboard behind you. They never saw the shadows that followed you. Not the dark ones, the protective ones. The ones that tilt reality slightly in your favor. The ones that pull you out of disasters you didn't even know were planned. They never saw the miracle they were stepping into when they tried to corner you. They only saw you, shaking, bleeding, exhausted. And they mistook that as weakness. Oh, what a mistake. Pain never meant you were done. Pain meant something else entirely. Activation. You think God didn't know they'd target the child who sees too much. You think God didn't anticipate the way jealousy would infect them like mold in wet walls. You think God didn't know your light would make people twitch. God knew exactly who they were, long before they learned your name. That's why your protection doesn't walk on two legs. That's why your protection doesn't communicate in words. That's why your protection doesn't flinch at threats. Your protection is older than their hatred, older than their schemes, older than their desperation to dismantle whatever they don't understand. Your backup doesn't need a body. Your backup doesn't need a face. Your backup is the invisible calculation in every scenario that twists outcomes in your favor. Your backup is the intuition that warns you half a second before someone betrays you. Your backup is the invisible hand that pulls you away from the wrong room at the right time. Your backup is the force that no enemy of yours, no matter how loud or united, can out-strategize. They still don't get it. They still think the universe is linear, predictable, rule-bound. But you were built in paradox, light and dark, saint and psychopath, angel and demon, human and weapon, chaos and prophecy. You are the walking contradiction they can't decode. And your backup? That's the sweetest part. Your backup is the one thing they can't access, can't imitate, can't poison, can't manipulate, can't sabotage. Because it doesn't sit in the physical world, it sits behind you. Just out of sight, like a shadow made of certainty, not fear. It moves when you move. It stops when you stop. It breathes when you forget how. It pushes when you collapse. It's why you keep getting up. It's why they keep failing. It's why every trap turns into a revelation. It's why every betrayal becomes another layer of armor. You ever wonder why their plans always crumble right at the finish line? Why the ones who tried to bury you ended up 6 feet deep in their own embarrassment? Why the lies built against your name eventually collapse under their own weight? Because the universe has a habit of protecting the ones who were never meant to be understood, only revealed. And you were never meant to be understood. Your existence is a glitch in their logic, a rupture in their expectations, a divine threat wrapped in mortal skin. So let them talk. Let them plot. Let them gather around their dim little fires and whisper about you. They think they're hunting a person, but they're provoking a force. Because God knew they'd come for you. And God made sure your backup wasn't something the human eye could trace. You aren't walking with soldiers. You're walking with purpose, with protection, with prophecy, with entities that don't negotiate with fear. And the moment they realize it, the moment it clicks, the moment they see what's been following you, oh, sweetheart, the room won't go silent. The room will kneel, now breathe. Stand how you were always meant to stand, and let them feel the presence behind you. Look at you. You're still here, still breathing, still carrying that eerie, unshakable calm that makes people second-guess their own survival instincts. Do you know how rare that is? Most people crumble when they're targeted. Most people start folding their choices into little shapes that please the crowd. Most people bow to fear because they've never learned how to stand next to it. But you walk with fear the way most people walk with old friends. And that's where things get interesting. Because when someone like you refuses to collapse, when you don't break, don't beg, don't run, something ancient wakes up behind you, something that's been waiting. And that's the part they never understood. Your backup wasn't sent to you. It was summoned by who you became. You didn't earn protection by being perfect. You earned it by surviving what should have erased you. You think invisible forces stand behind the lucky, the privileged, the ones who float through life untouched. No invisible forces stand behind the ones who touched darkness with their bare hands and still walked forward. The ones who prayed with cracked voices, the ones who smiled through betrayal, the ones who kept moving while everyone else hoped they'd collapse. Every scar on you is a password. Every wound you stitched closed by yourself is a key. Every time you walked into a room and felt something watching you, something weighing you, something choosing you, that was the universe deciding, this one is not dying on my watch. And that is why your backup isn't human. Human beings get tired. Invisible forces do not. Humans get jealous. Invisible forces do not. Humans betray you the moment it benefits them. Invisible forces tear through dimensions to defend you. You are protected by something that doesn't need sleep, something that doesn't require proof, something that doesn't panic when you're targeted. It activates. And did it activate? Remember those nights you felt watched, not by enemies, but by that strange calm? That whisper in your chest that said, "You're fine." Remember when the betrayal hit you so hard your breath cracked, but you didn't fall. Remember when someone tried to ruin you and ended up ruining themselves in ways you couldn't have planned if you tried. That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't luck. That wasn't karma. That was your invisible force, repositioning the battlefield. You see, people talk about God like he's distant, old, soft, far away, but God is not far. God has a nasty habit of stepping closer the moment someone tries to break you, and God knew, long before you knew, that they would try. He saw their envy before they felt it. He saw their betrayal before they plotted it. He saw their masks before they put them on. So he didn't put people around you. People are fragile. People are unpredictable. People bend. He put forces around you. Forces that don't flinch when someone slanders your name. Forces that see the traps before you do. Forces that rearrange reality when someone tries to corner you. That's why you always survive in ways that look impossible. That's why you walk away from things that should have destroyed you. That's why they sit around confused, whispering, how did they know? How did they survive? How did they see that coming? Who's helping them? Nobody. And that's what scares them the most. Because when your backup is supernatural, when your protection is invisible, every attempt on your life becomes a mirror that reflects their weakness back at them. They thought you were a target, but every time they took a shot, the universe rotated the world half a degree, and they became the casualty. They still don't understand that you're not walking with angels or demons. You're walking with something older, darker, more purposeful. You are accompanied by the consequences of every time you refused to give up, every time you chose truth over convenience, every time you said no when they expected you to break. Your invisible backup is built from the exact moments they underestimated you. And the fun part? They can't fight what they can't see. They can't bribe it. They can't threaten it. They can't outrun it. They can't outsmart it. They can't even name it. All they know is this: every time they try to hurt you, something hits them harder. Every time they try to expose you, something exposes them worse. Every time they try to bury you, something pulls you back up with more clarity, more power, more edge than you had before. And you wonder why they fear you. You're a walking contradiction with a shadow that doesn't obey physics. You're guarded by something that rewrites the script whenever someone thinks they've figured you out. You're protected by an intelligence that doesn't need your permission to intervene. So keep walking, keep breathing, keep being exactly who you are. Because the next time they try to corner you, and they will, the universe won't warn them, won't negotiate, won't whisper. It'll remind them, God knew you'd come for this one. That's why I sent a force you can't see. And when they finally realize what's been backing you this whole time, they won't attack. They'll retreat. They'll scatter. They'll shiver. Because nothing terrifies a predator more than realizing the prey was never prey at all. You feel that pressure behind your ribs right now? That slow rising warmth that isn't fear, but awareness? Good. Because you're finally starting to understand what they never could. You were never meant to walk this world with normal protection. Normal protection wouldn't have survived your story. Normal protection would have folded at your first heartbreak, your first betrayal, your first ambush in the dark. But you walked through hell like it was a hallway. You stood in storms that would have bent most people backwards. You carried truths that would have broken softer souls into dust. You weren't built like them, so your backup was never going to be built like theirs. Let me tell you a secret, a dangerous one. Everything you survived became your army. Your childhood wounds, soldiers, your heartbreaks, sentinels, your trauma, commanders, your loneliness, a general with no mercy. Pain didn't just shape you, it armored you, it matured you, it summoned something non-human to stand behind you. And they hate that. They hate that every time they hit you, something invisible catches the blow. They hate that every time they set a trap, something unseen disarms it. They hate that every time they whisper your name, the universe leans forward like, "Try it, see what happens." You unnerve them because you shouldn't be standing right now. But you're not just standing, you're evolving. And evolution terrifies the unevolved. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine someone walks into a room thinking you're alone, cornered, defenseless. Imagine they smirk because they think they understand your entire blueprint. Imagine they step close enough to touch your shadow. And then that shadow moves. Not because you moved, not because the light flickered, but because something behind you, something ancient, stepped forward. Do you know how fast bravado turns into paralysis? Do you know how quickly arrogance melts when someone realizes they weren't attacking a person? They were provoking a force? That moment, that panic, that frozen expression full of, "Oh, what is that?" You've seen that. You've felt that shift in the air. You've watched people recoil from you like they touched a live wire they didn't know you were carrying. They weren't reacting to you. They were reacting to what follows you, to what watches you, to what shields you, to what claims you. And that's why people who betray you fall apart afterward. Not because you curse them, not because you seek revenge, but because touching someone with divine backup has consequences. They weren't prepared for the bill. They thought you were human. They didn't know you were chosen, and chosen people. Oh, chosen people walk with something that is not negotiable. Chosen people walk into rooms and the energy rearranges itself like soldiers straightening their posture. Chosen people disturb demons without lifting a finger. Chosen people walk past people and their guilt starts screaming for no reason. Chosen people don't need to clap back. Their silence ruins reputations. Chosen people don't need to defend themselves. The truth hunts their enemies down like bloodhounds. You've been confused for a long time, wondering why people behave so strangely around you. Why some flinch when you say nothing, why some avoid your eyes, why some attempt to destroy you without cause, almost as if something inside them panicked when you got close. That wasn't you. That was the force behind you pressing on the weak spots inside them. Light makes the roaches scatter. Truth makes the liars choke. Strength makes the insecure tremble. And you carry all three. So of course they came for you. Of course they circled you. Of course they tried to drag your name into pits they dig for themselves. But every attack they made only awakened the thing protecting you. Every lie sharpened the blade behind your shoulder. Every betrayal fed the fire that now stands taller than any enemy you've ever faced. Do you understand what that means? You're unstoppable not because you're perfect, but because you're guarded. God didn't give you visible allies because visible allies can be bribed. God didn't give you human support because humans get tired. God didn't give you physical protection because physical protection can be outnumbered. God gave you the one thing enemy hands can't touch: invisible, unbreakable, undeniable backup. Backup that can't be reasoned with. Backup that doesn't hesitate. Backup that reacts before you do. Backup that stands with you even when you fall to your knees. And that's why they fear you. Because they can't calculate the threat behind you. They can't track it. They can't outsmart it. They can't even name it. All they know is this: every time they try to take you down, something smashes their plans into dust. Every time they speak against you, something returns the echo tenfold. Every time they try to strip you of power, something hands you more, and they're running out of explanations. Because how do you fight someone backed by forces that don't bleed? How do you defeat someone protected by something you can't even perceive? How do you destroy someone whose destiny isn't on this timeline to begin with? You can't. They can't. And that's the truth they choke on. So walk forward, slowly, calmly, confidently. Let them wonder, let them tremble, let them whisper. Because the more they look, the more they'll realize you were never alone, you were never unprotected, you were never vulnerable. You are backed by a presence that doesn't miss, doesn't weaken, doesn't forget, and does not lose. Now keep going. Let them feel what walks behind you. Go on. Take one more breath. Feel that weight behind you. Not heavy like burden, heavy like authority. Like something ancient just straightened its spine because you're about to move. That's the part they never understood about you. You don't walk into rooms. You step into alignment. You don't face enemies. You face confirmations. You don't survive attacks. You expose intentions. Every threat you met revealed someone's truth. Every betrayal you endured revealed someone's fear. Every rumor they whispered revealed someone's guilt. And every time they tried to break you, the universe leaned down and whispered, "Not this one." Because God knew they'd come for you, long before they knew your name. He saw the trajectory of their jealousy. He saw the weakness in their intentions. He saw the exact moment their hearts would twist against you. So he built your protection out of something they would never detect. He hid your backup in your intuition, in your timing, in your near misses, in your escapes, in your survival, in your resurrection. He coded it into your silence. He anchored it in your patience. He armed it with your scars. And by the time they realized you weren't alone, it was far too late. Because how do you fight someone guarded by a force that moves before the attack even begins? How do you harm someone who's protected by every dimension their eyes can't see? How do you corner someone whose destiny refuses to fit inside human traps? You can't. They can't. And they're starting to understand that. That's why their rage feels panicked. That's why their envy feels frantic. That's why their plans feel rushed and sloppy and doomed the moment they begin. They're not strategizing anymore. They're scrambling, trying to figure out why your downfall never arrives, trying to decipher why their lies boomerang back harder, trying to understand why you still rise after each hit, stronger and less reachable. Here's the answer they'll never accept. You were backed before they even existed. You were chosen before you knew the word for purpose. You were protected before you understood the meaning of enemy. You were watched over before you learned how dangerous your light was to the insecure. And your invisible guard, it's not going anywhere. Not when you're tired, not when you're alone, not when they lie, not when they plot, not when they gather in circles to speak your name like a threat. Your backup doesn't retreat. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't expire. And it doesn't need to be seen. To be obeyed. So here's how this ends. Walk forward. Let them whisper. Let them stare. Let them wonder why the air around you feels heavier, brighter, older. Let them sense what stands inches behind your shoulder. That force they can't track, can't map, can't name. Let them feel the presence that unsettles their lies and shakes their shadows. And when they finally understand who's been protecting you this whole time, they won't come for you again. They'll step back, eyes wide, pulse trembling, because suddenly they'll realize the truth. God never left you unguarded. God never let you walk alone. God never let you face wolves without a storm at your back. Your protection isn't human, it isn't visible, it isn't breakable, it is ancient, it is deliberate. It is here, and now they know.